Hello, teams with an S. It's been too long, and it's been too long since I, Jonathan Pearce and Jonathan M.S. Pearce, welcome to my channel, ATP Geopolitics, have spoken to both Greg from the Greg Terry Experience and Mark and Olena from the Mark and Olena Life in Canada. And this is a wonderful confluence of people. And I'm really looking forward to catching up with both Greg and, of course, Mark and Olena, and that's why we're here. So welcome to everyone. Welcome, Greg. Welcome, Mark and Olena.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for being here on my channel and as well as Johnny's. And Johnny, I know we do all of this at the end, but we're going to first dive in and jump into Mark and Elena's story. And you're going to hear some really, really interesting things, especially after the strikes last night on Ukraine and even continuing this morning. It's just going to be nice to hear from a Ukrainian. And there's a little thing you guys do not know, but I've actually been at Elena's hometown and with her mom and dad multiple times. So there's a definite connection here. And before we get going, Johnny, I know we always do this at the end, but I just had a lot of new crew members join. So 2CQQL1, thank you. Steve Sane, thank you. Mertzy, what's up? Steve Phelps, Steve Cousins, and Phil Hinsey and Kyle McGregor. Thank you guys for joining the team. And throw it to you, Mark and Elena.
Thank you for hosting us and introducing us to your fantastic team. I just want to say right off the bat that Olena is extremely nervous and she wanted everyone to know that. And well, I find that quite understandable because she's, sat here with three of the most devastatingly handsome men on the planet. So what poor woman could deal with all this masculine energy? So she may be quiet and she's like deferring her most of her dialogue to me, I guess, because she's just so please forgive us. It's but Olena is from Kherson, and a village from outside of Kherson, and she spent most of her working and educational career in the city of Kherson. So it really is devastating to her what's happened to her city and continues to happen to her city, because even yesterday she was showing me a video sent by a friend of downtown, and she said, this is our office where we used to meet she used to do makeup for people, and while she was going to university, and pizzeria that she used to work at. And she's looking at this building and she says, that's, we're walking into that room as the cameraman's going, it's all destroyed, and goes, that's, that's where, what was some plumber we used to work out of. And it's just sad that that's what's happened to her and her place where she grew up. So, and I was born in England, and I moved to Canada when I was 7, 8 years old. I grew up in Ontario, Southern Ontario, not far from Pennsylvania there in the US of A, and where Greg's from. And so I moved out west maybe 20 years ago, and we met online, Elena and I, and it was I was just telling JP that, people never gave us a shot because it looked kind of suspicious. We just met online, and within, a couple of months, she was in Canada. But it's like we've known each other our whole lives. And it's been 9 years now, and I'm very glad that she escaped Ukraine before all this madness began.
But that's an interesting time frame, because you're talking 9 years ago, which is 2016-ish, somewhere around there, which is 2 years after, obviously, annexation of Crimea. Kherson is in this interesting place. It's quite close by, and there's a lot of connection. There were worries that Kherson would be another place that could go, a bit like sort of Mariupol, a bit like a number of these cities around Ukraine, where there was a lot of people sort of poking sticks at maybe pro-Russians, trying to get pro-Russian sentiment going. So what was it like in Kherson?
Well, JB, just to accentuate you before Elena answers, just so people know, at that time and Russia annexing and stealing Crimea, Kherson city is known as the gateway to Crimea. So you come down through Mykolaiv, you come into Kherson, and then you push down on the road system into Crimea. So it's not just, oh, it's close to Crimea, or yeah, we're hearing about, possibilities, but in Ukraine, Kherson, that's the gateway. So you come down the main highway M14 out of Mykolaiv, and you get into Kherson, you grab a watermelon from up the river, and you go into Crimea. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
Elena
Ukraine.
made that trip when she was a child. Her parents took her in the car, her and her sister. They went to Crimea quite regularly, enjoyed.
Just 4 hours from Kherson to Crimea by car. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but she said when she went there, she would never speak Ukrainian. She would always speak Russian, just so that the people couldn't identify her as Ukrainian. It was just a way to just avoid what could be unpleasant with the other Russians or whatever, because there's always that little tension there. So they just went on holidays, and then with that bridge where that got blown up, the
Novokakhovka.
Thank you. She was over that many times with her family, and now it's gone. And so
and the Antonivka Bridge.
Yeah.
Antonivka Bridge. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in before Olena came across to came over to Canada, what was the feeling like locally in Kherson with regard to the Russians being in control of Crimea and the local lay of the land? How many people were kind of pro-Russian, pro-Ukrainian? Can you remember at all what it felt like?
I don't know how many people, but people were nervous, and we don't want it to be like part of Russia.
Yeah.
But it was like a quiet time. Yes, it was not like the war in Kherson. Yeah.
But nothing was building.
No.
You couldn't feel anything
No,
building.
not yet.
No.
And so then that was 9 years ago, and then you moved to Canada, obviously 2016 time. And so how was that adjusting to Canada? How was life in Canada compared to Ukraine?
I love Canada. Yes, and I love to be Canadian citizen. And sure, I miss Ukraine, but I don't know. For now, I think I'm very sorry for Ukrainians for now, especially in winter time. And I know Russia will never defeat Ukrainians. And I want to say, don't forget, Ukrainians have the blood of Cossacks. And it's the real warriors. Yes, and I just want to, I know Ukraine will stand, Ukraine will win. Yeah.
Very well said.
Johnny, I was in Donetsk in 2013, at the end of 2013, right before, so it was in like March, April 2014, when they stormed the building and took it. But there was nothing there. I'm walking around Donetsk, and everything kind of felt like normal. And that was just months before it unfolded. So it's not surprising that Elena would say, it was kind of like life was going on. Yeah, there's little rumblings here and there, but nobody expected that here we would be in 2026. What we see.
The thing that must be sad about Kherson, and I don't want to speak for you, Olena, but it's unlike some of these other places where they have been liberated by the Russians and they get completely destroyed. Kherson was occupied, then it was liberated by the Ukrainians, and you think, yeah, you've got this joy, so down and then you're up, but then it's been just gradually crumbling away from all of the attacks that are constantly taking place in places that Olena, places that you love, no doubt, that you hold dear to you. You see getting, the big White House in Kherson that's got that big gaping hole in the middle now, and it's just like, you were on the high of it being liberated, and so talk to us a little bit about how you feel about seeing Kherson.
Well, I think I just want to remember when I think I wrote you this a few years ago, I guess 2-3 years ago, when Kherson was liberated, and you can see all the people dancing on the streets, just partying. They said, we have no internet, we have no electricity, but we have no Russians. They were all very happy, greeting the soldier because their freedom. And Elena, I remember looking at the scenes on TV and everything, or on YouTube, and she was very, very sad because she realized there's no way Russia is going to allow this city to stand now. Everything's still, they didn't destroy much when they were there.
That's right.
Everything kind of just stayed as it was. The Russians were there, and friends of hers would tell, like, worked in a cafe, and then Russians was like the soldiers would be there, like commanders, and they would say very dangerous things like, be careful with us because we'll turn this into another Bucha. You know what I mean? There was always that hint, but nothing really took place. But after that, and people were celebrating, Olena just got a feeling that this town is not going to stand or look like the way it's going to look right now, because she knows Russians, and they say, if we can't have it, you're not going to have it either. And she just had a feeling that everything is, sorry for speaking for you, was that all right? And she just had a feeling that they're going to destroy it. So
she was
like
very accurate, Mark and Elena, as you guys
knows.
know. I was covering that and been so many times in and out of Kherson. It was clearly obvious that, when Kherson was liberated, we were in Kherson right after that, and all the billboards had changed over to Russian mobile carriers, and everything had changed, and they were, coloring things in the Russian flag. But it was obvious that all they wanted to do was pull back across the river and then siege it, meaning they've come in, they've gathered their data, they've gathered their information, they've rang the bell a little bit, and Ukraine liberated it, but Russia was satisfied because all they want to do is destroy. So they just pulled back across the river, set up artillery positions, and that's even where the drone level has come to the level of technology it has now. But they really do not even have to utilize massive resources to destroy Kherson. We're not talking the necessity of big, heavy missiles. It's literally FPV drones and artillery, and just lob it over the river and indiscriminately hit. So it's a
day
tragedy.
By day,
the city is it's in bad shape.
Yeah.
So Olena and Mark, I mean, we've met Olena's parents, right, in a village that's somewhat close to Kherson, and I'm just wondering how they are feeling, whether they see the effects of the war. Do drones get out near to their village? How are they feeling at the moment?
Surprised, but I can say my parents for now fine. They don't have electricity during the day, but they have at night. Really? Yeah, they have a generator, they have heating, and
they use coal, wood, whatever they need to do to heat. And then we got them a nice generator. I don't even remember when.
2 years.
2 years ago, we got them a nice generator, so they would always have, access to charge their phones, to do basic stuff.
Yeah.
So
her dad, as Johnny, is an absolute stud.
Yeah.
And the last time I went by there, JP, I was beating on the gates, and then I think I had to get in touch with you to call them. Then we got a neighbor, and they were inside because Dad wasn't feeling too well, and I'm banging on the gates, let me in. He comes out in his boxer shorts and says, "Hey man, what you doing?" I mean, just like a stud.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's great. I mean, we had such a lovely time. I know we've talked about this previously on live streams, but in fact, I've still got Olena's book there from university, I believe.
Yeah, I remember that.
And this is a Vyshyvanka from you guys, and the shawl as well, which is just next to it. So thank you so much for your kindness there. But we broke bread, I guess, with your parents, Olena, and it was absolutely lovely. And we had the Ukrainian cognac, the borscht. And in fact, I think Greg had a bit too much by that Sunday. He's not used to that. We'd already been to someone else's house where they'd offered us the same. It's one of these weird situations where we'd had cognac and borscht, and then
I think I've got to run. I've got to run. I hear.
But I think I told you that's how Ukrainians really love you, is when they bring out the cognac and borscht.
Oh yeah.
So, water and some onions here. But no, you're welcome then.
Well, the last time I was there, Elena, he went into the back room and came out and said, "Damashti." He was bringing out the home brew. I said, "Oh my gosh, man, come on, dude."
So it's interesting. So because we've heard that the power plant in Kherson has been hit several times and is out of business basically. So that means that the stretching out into those areas up the Inulets River and all over that kind of general area will not be having power then during the day. Wow, that's or they do have power during the day but not at night. Is it, which way around is it?
Do you know?
I think they can hear.
It's on and off, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's on. It's like not real schedule, really.
Yeah.
But you know what? They're so tough and they're so strong. It's like it doesn't even just kind of rolls off their back. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, we can deal with this. They're just so happy to be back home because, as you know, during the occupation, there were Russian soldiers in that village, and they at first were, I don't know, they weren't as aggressive as you would think. They kind of pulled back, but as time went on, they became more and more like the danger level was rising. And her father had friends. I think I told you this last time. The Russian soldier saw his car in the yard, said, "Give us the key to your car," and he just laughed like, "I'm not giving you my car." And then they shot him and took his car. So then this is when they started realizing this is not good, and they managed to get out. Her father, he's older and it's hard for him to leave, but he drove the family out with her older sister. We've never talked much about her older sister, but she's like a nurse in the village, and then she found work outside of Odessa, where they all settled because it was a little safer there. So when the village was, liberated by Ukrainians and they could come back, their house, they're missing a few windows and the door had to be replaced. So we helped them take care of all that. But once they got back into the house, they swore they're never leaving again. Like we say, what if the Russians come back? Because they might come back if they can make it across that river. The Dnipro, they might come back, and they say, "We don't care, we're going to die here." And we've offered to bring them to Canada. You know what I mean? But as so often is the case, they don't want to leave.
Yeah.
We said, "We can bring you here," but they said, "We don't have passports, we don't have proper the paperwork. It's going to take us a long time. Plus, we don't want to leave."
It's so common that the last people to leave villages and places are, I'm not saying this about your parents, Olena, but they are the psychologically challenged, the physically challenged, and the old people who either don't have connections elsewhere, or if they do have connections, their life is really tied to these places, and it's so hard. I mean, just without war, like if I tried to up my parents and get them to move, they're like, "I ain't moving." And then just naturally they're just I don't want to leave where I am. My roots are here, and so it's really difficult, and I totally get that. But I was just wondering, it's so long ago now since the war began, and so much has happened, but we almost forget the initial moments. You reminded me, Mark, of in Kherson, but other places as well, when old ladies would come up to the Russian soldiers with sunflower seeds, or in Kherson, they were actually, you had crowds of locals up against the army there, if you remember right at the beginning, and there was kind of like almost challenging them. There were almost these protests that you would never expect now, like that's never on the cards anymore. But right at the beginning of the war, the Russians were a bit more reserved, and they, because they weren't quite sure what all this why were people putting up a protest to us? We should be welcomed with open arms, right? So anyway.
Yeah, and I remember telling you the first time we spoke a couple of years ago that a lot of those soldiers weren't aware of what their mission was. There were
still don't
a couple of them went into Olena's parents' home, and I told you this story, but I'll repeat it. They walked in. They're just an older soldier and a younger soldier. And her mother asked him, like, "What are you doing here?" And says, "Oh, we have to make sure there's nobody with guns and, you have no weapons here." And she's like, "No, what are you doing here in our village? Like, what is it?" And the older one said, "Honestly, lady, I don't know what I'm doing here." And so a lot of them went in that way, without much information. They were just told, "Go in there, you'll be greeted with flowers. Everybody's going to be happy to see you." And we'll take it from there. But none of them knew. Nobody had the long goal in their minds. They just followed orders, and then, you know, like I said, things just got became more and more aggressive until, you know, her parents decided we got to get out of here because
Yeah.
it's just getting way too dangerous. So it's just, and then the people, I guess the same thing in Kherson, like you're in a state of almost shock and denial, and it's like you're angered, like what are you doing like here? You know what I mean? That's why they were challenged by the residents, is like, we don't want you here, and they weren't afraid of them. It's just they're just telling them straight out, we don't want you here, like get out. What is this all about? Like it's just like they were almost like, you know, confused to the point of, you know, that they became brave. And if they could, they would have chased them all out of there. But, you know,
Well, that's when they were making the Molotovs and they were riding the
Yeah.
tractors out in the
Yeah.
field and pulling the tanks. And, you know, it seems like ancient history,
It does,
to
doesn't
be
it?
quite honest. And we're, you know, the title of our both of our streams are we're in the fourth year of February. This month marks the fourth year, and how the war has changed even from those early days to now.
But what
And,
hasn't changed is what's inside the hearts
completely
of all the Ukrainians.
agree. Completely
It's
agree.
like, we will never be Russian. They would, it's I hate to say it, but they would fight to the last person, and so let us all disappear with dignity, instead of, you know, allowing Russia to come back and do with us what they will, because they've never respected Ukrainians. We were always just, you know, Russians who didn't know it better. You know, it was just always the same kind of hostile treatment towards Ukrainians, as if we belong to them. And it's just a natural instinct in all Ukrainians is, no, we're not brothers. We're not, you know, related in any way by blood. Or we are Ukrainian. We'll always be Ukrainian. Our language is our language, and
What's your
that
sense of
defiance will always be there.
what's your sense of how they're feeling now? For as much as you know, I don't know how often you're in contact with people in Ukraine, and whether this will just be, you know, Olena's family or whatnot. But what's your sense of how people are feeling now? Because, you know, just as a preface to your answer, like I'm up and down. I'm confident that the Ukrainians are doing quite well on the battlefield. Like, actually, things, you know, it's really difficult. It's difficult all across the front lines, but actually, I'm most worried about strikes on energy from a distance and a lack of Ukrainian drones and missiles in response at the moment. And I think Russia have done a, scare quotes, good job, if you're a, you know, megalomaniacal dictator, genocidal wingnut. They're doing a kind of good job of taking out Ukraine's energy, which means that it's very difficult to do anything. So, you know, with all that in mind, you know, where are people you spoke to, where are their heads at, where are your heads at?
Well, we can't speak for, because we know people in pockets, like in Odessa and Mykolaiv and in Kyiv. She has friends. We speak regularly, and it's almost it's a very Ukrainian thing. Is just, well, what are you gonna do? You know, if there's no electricity today, when's it coming on? Okay, it'll come on in, you know, 12 hours from now. Okay, and they just go about their day. A lot of them will find ways to manage. They've created, you know, everybody's got a generator. There's a group of people that Olena knows in an apartment building, and said, hey, let's all get together and buy a solar panel and they put solar panels on the roof. I mean, it's not going to run, you know, much, but there's going to be a little more electricity. Yeah, and then they've got these little burners that you can buy. And like we follow like YouTube channels of people who actually live there too, and not just people we know. And they just get by, you know, they'll cook on these little things and like candles, you know, and but there's no, as long as they're not Russian, as long as they're not being occupied by Russia, things are good. Like we'll watch the videos and people are going out, they'll wait until you know, the electricity comes back on, then they go out shopping. And you look on the streets, there's cars going by, people are going to restaurants and just going about their day. And well, you've seen the videos too, how they'll celebrate the snow. It's cold, but we'll get out and we'll drink warm wine and we'll I'm not saying it's like they're deliriously happy or anything like
Yeah.
that, but they'll always find a way to manage. This is the part of Ukraine and our people that Russia doesn't understand, and it makes them infuriated. Because this morning you were talking about, JP, you were talking about a disproportionate number of people outside of Ukraine or outside of Moscow and St. Petersburg. They're the ones being, killed mostly because,
Yeah.
and why is that? Because is it racism or whatever? The main thing with Russia is you've got St. Petersburg, you got Moscow, and those people who they consider real Russians, and like just they consider themselves just Russian. Everybody else, the conquered lands, the people of those lands, they're there to serve the real Russians. So when they see Ukraine was once considered the same, like Ukrainians, we're not really Russian, but we're useful to them. Our land is useful to them. Our resources are good, useful to them. And what's drove Putin crazy, I know, and a lot of Russians, is who are these peasants that are supposed to be serving us to have their own country? Look at them. They're having their own country. They want to have their own language. They're supposed to be under us, serving the people of Moscow and St. Petersburg. So this is what ignites their fury, and what one of the reasons why Putin wants Ukraine back under Russian control is he can't allow the people that are supposed to be his slaves to have such a wonderful country and exposed to freedoms, and then join EU. And then if that happens, they'll lose Ukrainians forever.
And then you have people from Belgorod and Bryansk, looking over the fence, going, "Hey,
yes.
how come these guys are happy? Why are they happy with a nice car?" And why? Yeah.
Because a lot of people, even here in Canada, when you talk, they think Ukraine is like a backwards kind of country. And Greg, you've been there how many times? You go to the big cities, they're driving around in Teslas and BMWs and Mercedes. They're wearing the finest clothes and having, not all of them, I'm not saying everybody, but there are parts of Ukraine that people just don't realize how nice it is there. And then the people in the villages, they of course they don't have all the same luxuries as the big city, but they're very comfortable and they love their way of life. Olena's parents love their simple life. They don't want anything, they don't need shiny things or anything. They just want freedom and just to run their little, they've got chickens, they've got lamb, they've got, their gardens, and they're very self-sufficient, and they just want that. But it's something that we know as Ukrainians, the Russians can't stand seeing is the people that are supposed to be under them are actually flourishing without them. And it's one of the reasons why, the war began. And it's one of the reasons why Putin, there's a lot of things that drive us crazy, is especially with Trump and the administration, who said that don't understand the war. They believe it's just two people fighting because they hate each other. How many times have you heard Trump say, "Oh, Zelensky and Putin, they just hate each other"? Like,
that
we're
just
just
annoyed
fight.
me. Like, it did that yesterday, and it was just you are such a child. Like, honestly, of course Zelensky hates Putin. Like, of course, don't be amazed by that and think, well, it would be okay if they didn't hate each other, but they do for obvious bleeding. You're such a fool. Anyway, sorry.
It takes it to such a
All right, okay, hold on. Let me interject here just for a second. Because I'm enjoying listening to y'all's story and letting people in my community and Johnny's community just hear directly from that firsthand experience in Ukraine. But guys, it goes way beyond that. That's just scratching the surface. This has been in play for decades. Putin has prepared for this for decades.
Yes,
and the game is afoot, and it's easy to see when you think that. Do you realize that the envoy is Stephen Witkoff? Okay, he loves his Russian buddies. And I don't want to go down conspiracy theories and rabbit holes, but it's so easy to see. You legend to my translator. I recognize your voice. And, we have Dmitriev in Florida. meeting with Witkoff and Kushner, and now Treasury Secretary Bessent shows up in Miami. Nobody's talking about that. The next thing you know, the negotiations have moved tomorrow and Thursday, and then we have a 7-day promise. I called Putin, everything's going to be all right. And then bam, we have the big strikes today. But this has been in preparation for decades. And you have this oligarchy system and this Kremlin narrative and Kremlin system that right now, unfortunately, is extremely admired by a majority in President Trump's administration and team. It's just admired. And when I can prove it historically. I can pull Marco Rubio's statements from 2014 and 2016, where he is preaching the absolute truth about the evil of Russia, the evil of the Kremlin, and now mum's the word.
I don't want to.
I just had to interject there. It's been coming for so long, and Ukrainians have been fighting against this for decades.
But I don't want to send this conversation off.
No, I didn't either, but I couldn't help it.
No, but I'm just going to add a little bit to this. I don't know if you've heard Donald Tusk today announce.
No.
So he's putting together an investigation into the Epstein files because he says he thinks Epstein is quite possibly a Russian spy. So and that's coming from the bloody Prime Minister of Poland, right? So that's really significant. So when you talk about it being a long time in the making, actually, when you start connecting some of these dots, it looks like, this is a long-term plan. And actually, some things are working exactly as Putin wants.
I was talking with Elena this morning because Putin made a speech. And is it that far-fetched that, maybe the Russians didn't create Epstein Island, but it's certainly possible that they could take advantage of it. They will work for decades and spend hundreds of $millions. They're so patient with their plans. So is it really that far-fetched that they saw an opportunity? Hey, let's get some compromise on these very, very influential and political people from the West. Let's just get there. Let's bank that, and slowly, because today Putin made a very interesting speech where he called. You can see the leaders of the West are all satanic pedophiles, and only Russia stands strong for family values, and you know what I mean.
Classic. Classic.
That's how.
Slavi Sousa. He's the preacher of the world, along with Kirill. Guys,
spend decades with planning this and shaping the world, and then come out looking like. We have to fight this war. They look at how evil the West is, and that's how you unite your country against an evil, a common enemy, which is the dreadful satanic West. And he, as long as he can do that and manipulate his people like that, he will stay in power.
Okay, and I agree completely 100%. And this is going to come out more and more. I'm actually doing a pretty deep dive on this thing. I may put out a video on it, but I want to make sure it's factual and not conspiracy speculation. So I'm working on it, and I've got a lot of dots connected. But at the minimum, everything you just described, Mark, is extremely accurate. And I would just add one thing to this. Vladimir Putin is in for life. Donald Trump will be gone in 3 years unless something crazy happens, as people are speculating, or whatever. I don't want to talk, but we have a political system where there should be an election. Okay. European leaders will be gone, but Vladimir Putin's been playing this game since his early days in Germany, prepping and then coming into power in 2000. It is 2026. This is the long game. This is his legacy. He's all in, and there is no doubt whatsoever that Russia will take advantage of situations, whether it be like an Epstein file or the speculation that there were bio labs in Ukraine, and now you start to see that information come out of the Epstein files. And then, as you talk about Satanism and child sacrifice, you name it, and they'll play that long game. And here we are. February 2026, and I have been absolutely sick in my stomach for 3 days. I talked to Professor Gertis 2 days ago, and I said, man, I hardly can turn on the camera and try to share the truth with people every day because I'm so sick right now of what I'm reading. And
Yeah, I had a couple of down days, like
it was depressing.
over the weekend. Yeah.
Depressing.
So let's tie this
Yeah.
back round to Kherson and where Olena and Mark's experience of particularly Olena with her family and Kherson being deteriorated. So there's this theory, like you've talked about already, guys, that if I can't have it, you can't have it either. So Kherson was like, okay, it got taken over by the Russians, then it was liberated by the Ukrainians, and now the Russians seem to be approaching Kherson in this terms of like, well, we're probably not going to be taking Kherson back anytime soon. So if we can't have it, you can't have it, and they're just like destroying Kherson. But I wonder if there's a sense that this is going on actually with Ukraine as a whole. So now we're seeing an approach of Russia that's far more destructive of Ukraine as a whole than what it was 2 years ago. When I think we can say that maybe their missiles weren't as accurate, or Shaheds weren't as accurate, or plentiful, or whatever. But I don't think they were targeting things in the callous way that they're targeting them now. And I get a sense that Russia is just like, well, we're not going to take the whole of Ukraine, so let's just make sure that the Ukrainians can't have it, type thing. Is that something that Mark and Ola, that you get a feeling of at all, that they're just kind of
we get a feeling of a mounting frustration from Putin, like a child having a temper tantrum that's escalating with further destruction of Ukraine, because he has to show himself as a powerful man, not just to the world but to his own people. And a lot of people, when they have negotiations and all, and then there's supposed to be like a period of negotiation, and it looks like there might be some room for talk, and then Putin the next day will send over many missiles and just start destroying. And people are wondering, why is he doing that? Like, so the reason he's doing that is to show that he is unpredictable and that he is strong, and he's to show his people how powerful he is. Like, even when Trump and his administration in America, their so-called success in Venezuela, that really was humiliating for Putin, because look how long that took to take. So we kind of knew there's something bad going to happen to Ukraine now, because he's just been showed up. So he's got to show, his people, I'm still a big man too. Like, I'm going to just, and the way to do that is what? Start sending more and more bombs to Ukraine, killing women and children, since his soldiers can't advance on the line. What he has left is bombs and planes that can deliver those bombs. So that's his way of just always demonstrating to the world, and more importantly to his own people and to the people around him, that he's still in charge, that they're still powerful. So as long as he's having no success on the battlefield, he's just going to destroy. Mostly, I think anyway, is to prop himself up and to show that he is still powerful, and he's not one to mess with. And the people around him know, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm in charge still.
One of the reasons I spend so much time every day translating stuff, and is so that the people of the world can hear what these guys are really saying. And a few days ago, I translated Lavrov, and what he actually stated was sickening. And many people miss it. But it was back 4, 5, 6 days ago when they were talking about, okay, this peace council, Putin's not against joining the peace council, but, for the $1 billion entry fee, what we would like you to do is unfreeze the frozen Russian assets inside the United States and pay the bill for that. And Putin will be happy to join the Peace Council. Now, you guys realize over the last 3-4 days, you're not hearing any words about the Peace Council right now, okay? Because everybody's up in arms about it. But then Lavrov tagged onto it, and I translated it perfectly. He said, we can also unfreeze the remainder funds that can be used for reconstruction in Ukraine. And we will utilize it in the places that have been destroyed in the East. Meaning, we want this to end. You capitulate, give us the land, give us our frozen resources back so that we can rebuild everything we destroyed.
Yeah, sure.
That's what he said, but it goes right over people's heads.
Well, I mean,
I just want to mention this whole negotiating thing, because like I was telling before, that the United States, Trump and his they just don't get the war. It's not like two people fighting because they're mad at each other. And the worst thing that you could do with Russia is open up the channels of communication. Rubio and Vance took great pride in like saying, we are now talking to Putin. We, for the first time, we are like, this is some great achievement. So this is the most dangerous thing you can do with Russia, is open up communication and start negotiating, because the negotiating table for them is just another battlefield where they will suck you in with their little traps, and then they will, delay and pause and manipulate you. The best thing you can do with Russians during this time is not talk to them at all. You just go about your business and show that you're moving ahead with plans, doing this, and just make it clear that if the Russians want us to stop, then we have a ceasefire.
Mark, are you really telling me that hanging Putin's picture in the West Wing is not the right strategy?
No. It's
But honestly,
they
this
just don't get it.
No, they don't get it. He's not your friend.
This is such a good point, by the way, because it's really easy to think that actually, and you hear this a lot, like, we need to speak to Putin, we need to speak to Russia, because of course, if you don't speak to them, how are we going to sort this thing out? But the speaking to them is a normalization process that the Russians go through that gives them the foot in the door, allows them to delay. I showed something this morning. I don't know if you remember this. I'm actually going to show this now, if you don't mind, Pete. It was in the Euromaidan press, and it was just a really good example of what the Russians do in their negotiating tactics. Sorry, I'm just padding this out so I can actually find what I'm looking for. So this is that one. Okay, right, so hopefully you can see this. I'm going to show you. I don't know if you remember this. I don't know, Mark, if you saw my video this morning, but I went through this. This is a script Russia runs at every negotiating table.
Oh, yes.
Gromyko method. How Russia weaponizes peace talks, a cycle that never ends. So as soon as you accept talking to them, then they suck you into this cycle that just goes on and on to their benefit. So first of all, they stall. They drag out negotiations until opponents exhaust themselves. Time is always on Russia's side. Every delay costs Ukrainian lives and Western attention too. They make demands. They present their maximalist positions designed to be rejected. NATO withdrawal to 1997 borders, full Donbass surrender, impossible by design. So then when it all falls apart because you don't agree to that, then they blame the Ukrainians when demands are rejected because they're so stupid, claim the other side refused peace, we tried diplomacy, they chose war. Western media then takes that narrative and runs with it, which supports the Russian point of view. And then it goes back to them strengthening, using this delay time to strengthen, to use the time bought by the talks to advance on the ground, rotate troops, consolidate gains, prepare the next offensive, then return to step one. So repeat this indefinitely.
This is like this cycle, this little washing machine of, you have to avoid getting caught up in there. You have to, as soon as that phone starts ringing from you, don't answer it.
Yeah.
I forget who was it that said, it was an official from in Europe who said you have to make it so that they're begging for you for you to pick up that phone, begging you to listen to them, because if you get yourself involved in this whole, it's just, you just be tumbling around in this thing forever.
You've got to force Putin to stop. He will not choose to stop. You can't negotiate him to, he has to come to the negotiating table because he's desperate to come to the negotiating table.
That's what Zelensky's been saying the whole time. And I will say this, that, all we hear is this is Biden's fault and Biden's war. It's repeated daily. And that if I were president, it would have never even started, la, 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 blah, blah, blah. Okay, you've been president for a year and you can't even stop it, you clown. So here's the deal. What the worst thing that Donald Trump has done, among many in regard to Ukraine, is not the envoy choice of a Witkoff, not removing Kellogg from the team because Russia complained about it. I can make a long list here. The worst thing that Donald Trump has done is he put Putin back on the world stage by calling him his friend and rolling out the red carpet in Anchorage. That was the worst thing you could have ever done.
Yeah,
That's it.
it's just empowered.
He
and
normalized
emboldened.
him. He humanized him.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and he emboldened him to just keep doing what he's doing.
Absolutely.
Because he knows there's no consequences, not real consequences. And unfortunately, Europe is not yet in that place where they can, take the lead
And
on
a
it.
great point sharing that. And I see Oink putting in a comment right here. As long as this continues this way, that cycle will just continue to push on those negotiations, and that line moves, and that line moves, and that line
Yeah.
moves. And it would be really interesting to do a comparison over the 4 years and see how the adjustments have shifted throughout time. And it probably would surprise people how much they've really shifted since January 20th, 2025.
Well, I get you start seeing when Kaya Kallas comes out and says Ukraine is going to have to make some concessions. Or no, so she didn't say that. She said, no, it's very different. She said Ukraine is prepared to make some concessions, because Kaya Kallas has been one of the few people that has got Putin to a T, right? And understands the war, don't negotiate, blah, 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 blah. And which is why they hate her and they don't want her anywhere near the negotiations, right? Because she understands it, right? But if she's coming out and saying Zelensky or Ukraine is close to making some serious concessions here, then that's pretty worrying, and it means the needle has shifted, and Russia has succeeded in that cycle of obtaining more from Ukraine than Ukraine, and that is because the United States has facilitated that. I'm sorry to say, or the Trump administration, not the United States.
Yeah, but, do you remember Condoleezza Rice from the Bush administration? There's a famous time where she said she overheard Putin leaning over to another, a U.S. official, and she overheard him saying, "The problem with you Americans is you think we think like you do, that we're the
Yeah.
And then he says, we don't think like you, we're not like you." And she remembered that for a very long time, and it is so true. The problem with this administration is they think they're talking to people on the same level, whereas the Russians are just using any advantage they can to manipulate. They'll smile at you and hugs and thing, and make them they're friendly with you, and
Mark,
Witkoff's falling for it. And
one of the great advantages they have, and I don't really ever hear anybody talking about it, but Elena will understand what I'm going to say now. They have a massive advantage at any negotiation table where the negotiating language is in English, meaning when those English speakers, whether it's Witkoff or Kushner or anybody else, the moment they begin speaking, everybody around that table, from Vladimir Putin to Ushakov to Dmitriev to Lavrov to Peskov, they understand them perfectly. Then they have that window of time to analyze. Then it comes through the translator. They have so much ability. And the Americans are sitting there, and when, let's just say it's Putin speaking back in Russian, they're sitting there going, and they're waiting for that translation.
Right.
They have to then trust that translation, and it is Russians a supreme advantage. It's mega advantage. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting at a ball game one time, and a long time ago, and these people were behind us at a sporting event. It was a pro sporting event here in the USA. We were watching it. It was in Sacramento, California. Family sitting behind us watching NBA game, and they're speaking Russian. And they were making, it's a long time ago, they were making fun of everybody. It was hilarious. Honestly, it was hilarious. Look at that lady. Oh, look at that guy over there. That guy's picking it, whatever. Okay. And I just simply turned around and I said, "Ya понимаю по-русски." And they went, "Oh, so sorry. But you look at the advantage I had. I was sitting there just listening to them. That's the advantage that the Russians have when they're negotiating in English with the Americans.
It's an art. They've got this down to a science, like for decades and decades. It's not like a casual conversation. They know exactly what they're doing when they're coming into negotiations or discussions.
Everything is constructive. That's what I've taught people on my channel. You will always hear it was constructive. And what's so funny is now we have Witkoff coming out of the meetings going, "It was a constructive meeting."
Yeah, we have
Meaningless,
no
but
idea.
he is supremely ignorant. I mean, that you would go on your own into a meeting, no one's taking notes. Like, how do you? What are you? How
I was,
this is
I was
one of the most important meetings in your entire life, and you're on your own. You haven't brought a translator. You're surrounded by
Because
FSB Russians.
they trust Putin.
But
Don't-
by all accounts, the big article that talked about this was saying that actually the Russians were somewhat frustrated with this as well, because actually they were relying on him to take back what their agenda was, but he kind of misremembers it, doesn't really know what's going on, and then like they need someone to be at least a little bit serious and taking notes. Like they're kind of relying on that anyway.
but I need maybe one of you or both of you can help me understand why Ukraine can't be in a position to say we don't want Witkoff anywhere near these negotiations. Why can't they say we need someone else? Because obviously Witkoff is favoring Putin's side more, and it can't be just the access to intelligence or something like
You
that.
want the
Really
Brit?
good
You
point.
want the Brit to answer that, or you want the American to answer that? Let's hear
Either
the
or,
Brit. Let's hear
because
the Brit
I
version.
can't figure out why they.
They're always walking on eggshells with the Americans.
That's
He's got
100%. They
he's
are
got
afraid.
he's such a brittle character, Trump, and he's they're just afraid of upsetting him, because then if they upset him, he goes fully against them. So they kind of have to just go along with whatever he states, and then try and subtly do things, or ask the Europeans to help them, or Mark Rutte to come along and do it. But I think if they butted up against Trump, it just all goes south. And although they are getting less and less reliant on the US in terms of like intelligence and stuff, they still need the US on side, because if the US aren't on their side, they're on the other side. And
That's the answer right there completely. And it is obvious. It is obvious that there are very few people that Trump actually trust on this level. You guys do realize right now that the war between Russia and Ukraine is entering its 4th year, and it is a massive war that still most of the world do not understand. And the envoy from the United States is Witkoff. And we are on the edge of a massive regional war in Iran. And the envoy is Witkoff. Okay. And the list goes on and on. Okay.
Yeah.
No, but there's something philosophically wrong. And that is the humanity side of it and the education side of it, because to the Trump mind, which is waning, obviously, everything can be worked out to a deal. And everything can't be worked out to a deal. And that's the problem. So this gets so distorted and so ugly so quickly. For me personally, as a lover of Ukraine, I've given my life to serving in Ukraine. It's a slap in the face that Witkoff is the envoy to the Ukrainian people. It's an absolute slap in the face. But they cannot say, change it.
So yeah, what do you think, Mark and Olena, with regard to what are you most hopeful about at the moment? Well, let's start on the negatives and move to the positives. What are you most worried about at the moment with regard to Ukraine and the war at the moment?
And the energy, it's like you yourself said it yourself. Your military complex depends on energy, so you can produce ways that you can defend your land. So we're hopeful that well, with the coming of the end of winter, like next week is supposed to start getting a little warmer. Maybe the pressure on the people won't be that severe, but we are desperately worried about the U.S. And then when I criticize the U.S., I'm like you, JP. It's like it's nothing to do with the people. The American people are amazing, and their support of Ukraine is amazing. And Greg represents everything that I always found good in America, because like I said, I grew up in Southern Ontario, and we have family in Parma, Ohio, is just outside of Cleveland. And that is a huge Ukrainian community there. Like you would not believe. And I was first exposed going to the States in the early 80s. and I met like I guess he's like friends of the family, their children. One was an older brother, one was a younger brother. And Peter, he was, I don't know, maybe 5 years older than me. But I remember going to the store. I brought some American money with me, and I was going to pay for something. And he looked at me as if I was going to light a puppy on fire. He's like, "What are you doing?" Like, he's like, "You're a guest in my country," he said. "You're my responsibility. I take
Mm-hmm.
care of you." And that's how. And I look at the little brother, and he's like, "Look at me, yeah, man. What are you doing? Like you're." And that's the America I know. That's the America I carry in my blood, where they are so grateful to be American and so grateful for their freedom. They almost feel like a sense of duty to help others. So when I see Greg with Olena's parents and just giving and just saying, well, we're going to go out of our way maybe, and we're going to just pop in to see these people, give them a little bit of a little smile, a little hope, a little something, a little distraction or something. That's the part of America that I know and love, and I know is out there. So it's the Trump administration, the Vance and the people like that. Though, if you to be honest, that's what really scares me, is because they really just don't get it. They don't know what Russia is. They don't realize that you can't negotiate with them, you can't bargain with them, you can't reason with them. They're like a machine, a killing machine that just keeps moving forward, and you have to just stop it. Well, what the question is what are we all prepared to do about it as, free nations? How far are we going to go? Like, do we go to right now? We have some kind of light beer version of World War III. It's not there yet. Do you know what I mean? Like, but how do we turn this into a hot war? Do we have like escalated to a point where nukes might be used? Because that might be the only way to end this war.
It's an interesting idea. I've thought about this idea of like, actually, could this end quicker if you got a kinetic involvement from European forces or something? You don't want this to become World War III, but perhaps it needs to become World War III. But then you've got the issue of a small issue of a nuclear war. So there these kind of ideas.
Who's the leader that's going to make that decision?
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Like, the way to win this war is like NATO forces in Ukraine, massive bombing runs to Yalabuga and take out that and risk the level of nukes, to lose troops in Ukraine, German troops, British troops. But are we prepared to do that? I don't think so. The world
There's
is ready
all this grey area going on. So at the moment, like, there are 2 people that have been arrested in Germany for sabotaging naval ships. You've got 5 people arrested. Was it in Germany as well, actually, the other day? Then you've got there are all these things going on in Europe that are very close to being outright war, where Russia is doing things and prodding and poking, and Europe still isn't like prepared for obvious reasons. They don't want to go to war, right? But it's just that Russia is pushing the envelope as far as they possibly can. I think they've been quite risky, but it will take maybe a miscalculation of Russia doing something that involves, I don't know, a disaster. Like, for example, the Polish shopping mall that was burnt down. Like, that's the sort of thing that should lead a country to go, hang on, that's the tipping point, that's enough now. So maybe something like that will happen, but it doesn't seem to happen.
No, so it's but the only other way is for the people of Russia to rise up against Putin. And the Russians that we know and speak to, they say that will never happen, because they who's that famous there's a journalist in Ukraine, I forget his name, but he said, like, the Russian people always feel powerless against before their government, while Ukrainians never feel powerless before their government. But if there was a crack in the Kremlin where chaos and started, there a lot of infighting within the Kremlin, and it came to that where that structure seemed weak, that might give permission to the people to protest when they're Putin and his regime looks like they're losing control. So that's one way. Another way that we can see some kind of end to this war is through that kind of. But I don't know how realistic Mark, is that.
the phrase you state there, though, you said an end to this war. Okay, but there's multiple ways to end the war, and Russia wants Ukraine to capitulate. We do not want that to happen. The way to win the war for Ukrainian victory and for the best outcome for the globe as a whole is Putin must be defeated. That's the answer. Whether it comes from inside, whether there's an economic destruction, whether there's an implosion, or whether it is done militarily. It's the only way that you begin to get some order and global stability back. He must be defeated. And one of the examples we need to watch right now is, and I don't want to go and start talking about Iran, but this is easy to see. If the United States backs down now, and after all of this rhetoric, and I don't know people's persuasion on this, whatever, but does not go in and finish what was started, take out that regime, Putin smiles all day long, loving it. It's because all you do is talk, but you don't do any action. And what's interesting is, in fact, I've got it saved over here that I'm looking at, because it's June of 2025 when the United States, and I'm going to pull the quote where Donald Trump stated, "We have completely destroyed the Iranian nuclear power war engine, everything. It's completely destroyed. And now, we're trying to make sure that they have no program. I thought it was already destroyed." You see, this is the game that's played. So Russia watches everything. But the only way that this war ends justly is Putin must be defeated.
I agree. Just like the World War II, and there was no, I mean, Hitler and his Nazi regime had to be completely eliminated, and that virus in the mind of a grand empire also had to be defeated once and for all.
Yeah, obliterated. Thank you. I saw it in the chat. That was the word. Yes.
That's a good word.
It was, that's what he used, but it wasn't. So you have to, I'm just sorry, but I don't see the leadership in place. I really don't right now, other than President Vladimir Zelensky, and he needs help. That's the leader. But he's under such attack, and he only has the resources that he has available to him, whether inside Ukraine or with the coalition of the willing and or partners. He has the tools he has. But if he had unlimited tools, you'd see a completely different war right now.
Well, if he had the complete backing of the U.S.,
that's right.
This war would have been over.
Already over. Over.
Because that's the only thing that Putin will respect is the big show of force. He was counting on weakness, and that's what he came up against. So
thing I've always said is that if Trump had decided to go fully behind Ukraine on January the 21st, right, just came out of the gates absolutely gunning for Ukraine, really wanting Ukraine to succeed, his base would have absolutely followed him on that. There's no ideology in the Republican side of things, particularly
because it's a cult.
That demands. There's no ideology that demands that they support Russia. In fact, the ideology really supports the opposite, right? So if Trump came out and said, actually, I've had a road to Damascus moment, I'm now going to fully support Ukraine.
Like, wait a second. Was that a Bible reference?
Yeah, it was. It's just for you, Greg. It was for you.
Oh, thank you.
But like, if he had gone to town on Russia, it would have been like, he's losing on foreign policy, he's losing on domestic policy, but like, he's just making the wrong choices everywhere. And so the only reason you think that he's making these choices then, because it's not strategically sensible, is that actually, like, he wants to make those choices because he's somewhat aligned to Russia or he's compromised. And we're back to that same old discussion.
Let me compliment that statement, because there was a time, I think it was like September, maybe early October 2025, where we all woke up one morning and there was this Truth Social out that said, you know what, I've reconsidered. I think Ukraine can win this war, not only take back their territory, but also take Russian territory.
Yeah, what happened to that?
At that moment, but to Johnny's point, MAGA people started going, oh, well, maybe we had this wrong. Let's go Ukraine.
Yeah,
exactly. And then, of course, that's all gone.
Yeah, so you just like, yeah, who knows? History will tell us whether he's been properly compromised or not.
Now,
I think, you
back
know.
to the weather, I want to focus on what Mark and Elena were saying here. One of your big concerns is about infrastructure and electrical and heat generation. So I just pulled up the 30-day forecast for Kyiv, and it's really not that good, guys. We're not going to be in positive territory until March.
Yeah, but it's not going to be like minus
But it's
20.
not. Yeah, it's not going to be minus 25 and 30.
Yeah.
But really, we do not get above zero until March.
Even if it was minus 30 the whole month, it won't stop Ukrainians from.
Of course not. Of course not.
If Ukraine wanted to surrender, they would have surrendered the first day. As soon as those trucks started rolling in, those tanks, we would have surrendered. This should just cement the fact that Ukraine will never stop fighting, no matter what. Even if they're abandoned by everybody in the whole world, if everybody says, you should just give up, surrender your land, we're not going to support you anymore, Ukraine will not stop, because it's innate. We just don't want to be Russian, because as bad as war is for Ukraine, it's horrible, and a lot of people are suffering, a lot of people are dying, and we see faces of children that are gone, and it breaks your heart, but it's still better than being Russian. The alternative to this war is far worse than what they're dealing with right now. And the stories that we hear from our various sources are stories you don't hear on the news, and you don't even hear on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
But and Vance and Ruby, remember Vance saying that Russia and Ukraine should start have like open borders and do business together.
Oh yeah, let's do business together.
Yeah, because we can we can forgive each other, and all. Ukraine will never forgive. Like I said, Olena's sister is a nurse, and a friend is a psychologist in Odessa in a hospital. And I'll never forget a story that we were told, and I'm sorry for sharing this, but it's important. This young soldier, he's like wounded, but he's suffering also from, mentally, he can't get it together. He's really, and to pull the information from him was a chore, but he was in a town, a village that they were clearing, and he walked into a house, make sure it was clear. And he sees a young couple of men and a woman tied to a chair, just like this, side by side, and hands behind their back, and bullet holes in their head. So that was horrible enough. And he starts walking around the house, and he sees baby stuff like a blanket, little socks. And then he's like, oh my God, the baby. They probably took the baby. They probably kidnapped, took it to Russia or whatever. But the way the couple was seated was just disturbing to him. Something was wrong, because they're facing the washing machine. And then he felt his, sick to his stomach, because knowing Russian soldiers as he does, he knew what was in the washing machine before he had to open the door. So the soldiers made the couple watch their baby die in a cycle, in the washing machine before they killed them. So Vance can talk all he wants about, we're going to forgive and we're going to have business together. It just shows how much they don't understand what's going on in Ukraine. And if Ukrainians were to surrender that land, that that part of Donetsk, which Russia wants, what do you think the people in those villages and those towns are going to be going through under Russian occupation? Do you think they're going to be welcomed and let's do business together? They're going to torture them. They're going to steal from them. They're going to.
That's appalling.
Mark, to accentuate what you're saying, and I know people have seen it, I just chose not to share these videos, but everybody has seen it on social media, where Russia punishing their own soldiers, tying them to trees, freezing, for leaving their positions or not going on position. So that tells you the mentality right there. They'll do it to their own comrade in arms. But to even take it a step further, when the alcohol gets going, they're completely savage. It's already evil, but then it's savage. And the stories that I've heard, just like you, that I never share. When they're already in the mindset they have, but then you accentuate that with alcohol, it's vicious what they
It must
do.
be so frustrating though, because most Ukrainians are going to feel that visceral anger, right, towards the Russians. But then there are also a number of Ukrainians who collaborate, right, and the
Oh, yeah.
FS and the GUR are consistently arresting people for, you know, and quite often young people, but not always, certain people in the armed forces, like all over the shop, who are collaborating with the Russians or sending them information. And I always want to know, you know, and I'm sure it's different for each one, but or at least, you know, there will be several reasons, but I do want to know, you know, what is it that motivates these people? Is there an ideological reason? Is it that actually they've got compromise on them? There's some of these young people who are online, maybe they've done something online and they've got blackmail on them, or is it money? Just money for a lot of these people.
Yeah.
Where the Russians are paying in crypto, and they're like, yeah, I'll give away my guys.
Yeah, they just
air
don't
defense
have.
systems.
They're soulless. You know what I mean? It's just they're not real Ukrainians. Let's put it that way. They're not real Ukrainians. Anybody who does something like that and allow that kind of abuse to take place, you know, there's no moral compass that's guiding them. They follow.
Yeah,
It's just
interesting.
sad.
Yeah. So you were saying that where is it you were most positive about Ukraine going forward into the war? Remind me what you were saying there.
It's just
Martin,
the resolve of the people.
Mhm.
They'll never stop. So we know as long as there's at least one Ukrainian in there, he's going to, like a real Ukrainian, not one of the people that you were just mentioning.
Well, I mean, the sticking point, therefore, seems to be the Donbass, right? And actually, Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant appears to be another one that they are unable to resolve at the moment. Do you think that Zelensky would ever give up the Donbass without a fight?
I don't think so. I'm like he said, it's not up to him. It's not my country to give up. I have to run it by the people, and through, you know, the parliament that they have there, it's not just one man's decision. So, and as long as there's people, you know, that say no, we can't give this up, he won't be able to give it up unless, I don't know how he would manage to convince, you know, so many people that this is the right thing to do. I personally, the giving up of territory for me is kind of a sticky situation, because some of this land might not be lost forever. It can come back. It might take 10 years, it might take 20 years, depending on how much Russia is welcomed back into the, you know, the world community. Because they are going to be suffering a lot economically for quite a while. And can they hold these lands? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like the Soviet Union collapsed in, you know, the early 90s, and people started breaking away, and then new leadership, and then, you know, over the years there could be new leaders, there could be new kind of mentality going forward, you know. Especially if Russia is punished for a long time for what they did, and their economy continues to collapse, and they're not being welcomed back into the world community, and then somebody comes along and says, we've got to change this, we've got to bring ourselves back into the world community, and the way to do this is to, you know, to make atonement for the things that were done in Ukraine. And so nobody knows what like these, if they give up lands, will they be lost forever?
Yeah, and actually that's something I hadn't really spent enough time thinking about, Mark. The idea that actually there's a lot of fragility in global politics, and if they do end up conceding or losing Donbass, or not even, we don't even need to talk about Donbass, talk about the existing lands that are already under control of the Russians, that actually, you know, 10 years is maybe a long time in you know, in terms of Putin's health, in terms of what leaders are going to do what, and whether if Russia is in trouble in 5 years' time. And I really do hope that the resolve of the West maintains against Putin, and we don't normalize
Greg
him
wants
and
to say
don't allow him back in.
Wait. Come on. It's hopium, brother. Let me tell you something. Until the world defeats Vladimir Putin, all that's hopium. Forget it. Why? I just had something come across my left screen here, and I put it over here to confirm it. Yes, according to foreign policy, over the last week, the Trump administration is advancing the idea that restoring trade relations between the United States and Russia will serve as a safeguard for.
Makes me sick.
Okay,
Yeah.
for
I did not know that.
it's just coming out for the expansion of this war. Okay, so that's all hopium, guys. I'm sorry, but it's just the way it is. Vladimir Putin must be defeated. This is like saying, okay, you know what? Well, we'll just leave Hitler in power and he can have this part of Poland, this part of Czech, and we'll call it good.
But in the event that all I'm saying is that 10 years is a long time. And actually, what I'm saying is, in the worst case scenario, that these lands remain in Russian hands.
But you're in the middle. You're in the middle of the war right now, and the United States administration. Everybody, look it up. It's just coming out now. Look it up. Wanting to do financial deals with Russia to stabilize the world. And by the way, guys, as of this moment, the February the 3rd, there's 2 more days. There's still no agreement on the START treaty. That's all off the table for 48 more hours. We don't have a nuclear treaty anymore. All right. So this is absolutely madness, what we are witnessing.
100%.
So the only way to get beyond it is Putin must be defeated.
That's what I was saying earlier, that is the option that we have. That is one way to get rid of him, is to have. But who is going to lead the way to this World War III?
This is sickening, guys. I'm reading the article right now. Stephen Witkoff has told Trump that financial deals with Russia will be a guarantee for security for the future.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me feel a little bit sick. Yeah, that's not cool at all.
Not at all, man. Not at all.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, does Ukraine take the chance and say, we want America out of this completely? We're going to lose intelligence capacity and all sorts of things, but we want America out of this completely, and we'll just rely on Europe and maybe escalate this war to such a measure where it does approach like a real hot war, World War III kind, to get people to start taking this serious. And like Greg said, this is the only way to get Putin out of there, is to go to a place where we might not feel very comfortable going. But it is the only way. Like people when they got rid of Hitler, they were a different generation. They saw evil and everybody united against that evil. I don't think
But if they did that, they would have to do it in such a way that they didn't anger Putin. Sorry, Trump. Freudian slip there. They had to do it in such a way that Trump walks away from Ukraine without getting angry at being jilted by the Ukrainians and then turning towards the Russians. What you need to somehow manipulate a situation where everyone's like, it's okay, Trump. You're really busy. You concentrate on Iran. You've got stuff going on. Honestly, we'll look after this. We've got Ukraine. Don't worry, mate. They're in safe hands, but you go and worry about your things. And ICE is all a bit of a problem. You've got some domestic issues, but certainly concentrate on Iran. You go and do that. It needs to be something like that, because if you push Trump away in a way that he feels he needs to get retribution, then that's a big problem, because he will just get into bed with the Russians. He'll probably do that anyway, but I don't know. No. Look, if it's anything,
the last time I checked, isn't there something going on with Tulsi Gabbard? And just wait, just let me make a statement here. I'm watching Carolyn Leavitt over here in her press conference from minutes ago, confirming that Tulsi Gabbard will be the oversight power for American elections, along with Kash Patel.
Oh boy, that makes
okay. So just guys, this is what
this is crazy.
That you exactly, Mark. That nailed it perfectly. That's why the other day I honestly was just not last night on the stream when I was covering the strikes, but just the last couple of days I've just.
It's nuts, mate.
Been honestly, depressed, man.
It is so
not depressed, but just how much disgusted.
Shocking to see, because of someone who grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s and saw America as like a defender of freedom and like I'm longing for the days of George W. Bush, because he would never.
He seems so sensible now, doesn't he? He seems so sensible.
Yeah. But
Okay,
there's something
all of my guys
seriously
on my
wrong
channel,
with
and then Johnny's going to laugh right now, okay, because I'm not a Joe Biden fan, but I will tell you what, I miss Joe Biden.
Honestly, he was just. Thing is, Greg, he was just pretty standard. He was just quite normal.
sorry.
Just like he was just normal. Like that. It's that. It's just that. I'm with you.
He's
Greg.
not
I'm
in the
with you.
Epstein files so far. So
Yeah,
that's,
you know
that's
what?
good.
Yeah, and there's a lot of connection to Russia in the Epstein files, and that's something to watch out.
Oh,
for.
I'm
Look,
digging on it.
yeah.
Mhm.
I just wanted to bring up a fellow Canadian, for
Mitch,
Mitch
yes.
Mazerol. Yeah, it just says
Mhm.
JP, thanks for the stream and the great guests as ever. Much appreciated. These discussions are important and in my
Oh
opinion
man,
make
Tuck.
a real difference. So
Oh my
that's
gosh.
really nice of you, Mitch. Greg, are you all right?
No, I'm not, because
He's in his own-
I'm watching there's two things going on here. Number one, the chat, because both of our chats are connected, so I'm watching it go by quickly.
Yeah.
And you're hosting the stream, and I saw old man Tuppen here, and he goes, "Oh my!" Well, he's a buddy of mine here locally. He knows, like, I'm a Ronald Reagan guy, and he just heard me say I miss Biden, so I'm probably going to get a text message and a drive by here in a little while. And then
You're
my
get cancelled by your
moderator
text.
says I'm time stamping that. This may come back to bite me, but that's okay. Honestly, right now that's
But
where I
to be
stand.
fair,
I'm just
mate, you can easily justify that. You've got a lot of evidence to justify.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
position.
I don't back down from it, but
Yeah,
it's atypical. I would say that. But
yeah.
it
So
is what it is.
So, anything else, Mark and Olena, that you would like to discuss that we haven't? Obviously, there's so much we haven't discussed. We've gone on to more geopolitical things, but any sort of personal anecdotes or elements of the war in Ukraine that you think are worthy of note at the moment?
Well, Olena is, I know she sits here quietly and she's nervous and all that, but she's a very strong Ukrainian woman, and I'm so happy to have her in my life. And she will always give me little tidbits of wisdom, especially like times of war, when she says, like, war will separate families and loved ones forever, but at the same time, it will bring complete strangers together. And then remember when you were in Lviv, JP, and I'm sure you were there too, Greg, and you saw the flags and honoring all those who have fallen, how huge it is.
The field of Mars, isn't it? Or
Yes,
something?
and I would
Yeah.
say, oh my God, it's just so quiet there. It's so quiet, and that quiet is really haunting. And Olena would tell me, it's not quiet at all. It's probably one of the loudest places in the world. All these people are screaming and yelling for all of us to hear, live, don't give up, keep fighting. And it's like, yeah, you're right. Because now every time I see flags and graves like that, I just hear voices saying, don't give up, don't give up. And it's very powerful.
And as you said earlier, I don't know if it was before we came on live. You were saying that, look, this war brings out the very worst in people, but
it shows you who you are.
Also the very best in people.
Yeah, war will absolutely show a person's true character, because even now when you talk to people, you can sense who they are by how they feel about the war. And like, look at Greg and yourself. Like, what's that saying? Is if you ever wonder what kind of person you would have been in World War II, you're doing it now. And you both feel the need to help in some way. And this is something that just humbles us completely, because neither of you are Ukrainian. All your viewers a lot of them are not Ukrainian. There is no reason for them to care, because when this war started, we thought nobody even knows who Ukraine is. Nobody's going to come to our defense. And then slowly you start seeing people rise up and say, no, this is wrong. I will stand up. I will be the one to say, no, I will go. And Greg risks, and you both risked your lives to go to Ukraine to help. And it's completely humbling. And we don't have the right words to thank you for everything you're doing. Just every day bringing messages out. There's so much inaccuracy, so disgusting, misinformation, disinformation, all of it coming out daily. And then there's people like you who will just shout out, no, that's wrong. Listen to me. I've been there. I know things. And it's very, sincerely, it moves us that people do care enough to you're giving up your lives for
let me
Ukraine.
let me tell you, and you see Olena there, and you were talking earlier about the lost lives and it affected her, but let me tell you about Olena's mom, and she's wonderful. And every time I've been there, we arrive and in her village, and guys, just so you realize about where they live, and I won't say the name of it ever, but they've already said down toward Kherson area, but it's a travel route for Shaheeds. It's a travel route for cruise missiles coming out of Crimea, constantly stuff going overhead, heading north to Kyiv or anywhere else in Ukraine. So it's very dangerous there. They have a beautiful place. You come out in the little road there, and there's this big ravine and gully, and you look down, you see the little well, and you look off to the right, and you see the rolling plains. It's just gorgeous southern Ukraine. But it gets dusty, right? And it's farmland and dusty. And we show up, and as we're walking in, all she wants to do is say, oh my God, I haven't cleaned up yet. And she's pulling a broom out, sweeping off the step in front of where we're stepping. I'm going, come on. And I call her Mama. Come on, Mama. We're already here. Get out of the way. And we're coming in the kitchen. She's wanting to clean the floor. I said, we're here. The floor is beautiful.
So guests have come.
Exactly.
And then she would tell us how upset she is that she didn't have enough food for everybody. It's like,
yeah. And then Elena's dad has had some health issues, and we go into the living room where he's been laying down on the sofa, and his television's there and all this, and he'll sit up and she'll go, oh, I need to make the bed. I said, he's sitting on it. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. But that's the Ukrainian character and Ukrainian culture and kindness, and always want to do their best. And I mean, right in a war zone. So that speaks for itself. The more we tell these stories,
and the more they love you, the more they give to you. So I know they love you both, because they've experienced how sincere and honest and good you are, and you're giving your like what are these British guy and an American doing in our little village, coming to see us? You know what I mean? Why? And it's like, well, if they're that committed to Ukraine, then they're one of us now. Like, and I remember Jonathan gets grief sometimes because he doesn't know how to pronounce certain villages or certain names. And I'm here to tell everybody, Jonathan has earned the right to pronounce Ukrainian any which way he wants to. He is one of us now, so he can butcher it all he wants. And
brilliant. That's permission. I'm happy with that, Mark.
Yes.
This has made my life so much easier.
Just do it.
Jake Bro's in the chat over here, and he got a gifted membership from Hungary. So thank you, Jake, for being in the chat. But let me, what you talk about Johnny being a hero, Mark and Elena, and we know, listen, Johnny has multiple sclerosis and
not easy for him to get around.
Significant health issues. Let me tell you what happened in Kherson, right in the city of Kherson.
No.
I mean, within 800 meters of the river. Russians are right there. We were where we were staying, had a long stairway to go up. And we're trying to go up the steps, and I'm behind Johnny. It was like 22 or 23 steps, because I would count them. Had to get way up. Johnny gets up to about the 22nd one, and all of a sudden he goes, no. I said, oh no, mate, we're going forward. But it's just,
I'll tell you what, my walking is worse. That was 2 years ago now, and my walking is
you wouldn't be able to make
worse
it
now. Yeah.
Oh, he'd make it. Let me tell you something. I have so much respect for Jonathan M.S. Pearce, because you guys realize that, like, philosophically, we probably disagree on 90% of stuff.
I mean, come on, mate.
99% of stuff, and we're best friends, and we just love each other. And the 1% so much more important than the 99%.
Yeah.
And this man is just a legend, and I respect.
Thank you, Greg. It's very kind, and right back at you, mate.
Oh, I remember when I found Jonathan on YouTube, like beginning of the war, like there's so much, I couldn't find the right. We needed information. Who do we trust? But when I found Jonathan, he had less than 5,000 subscribers to him. And then when you came on his show first, Greg, you had less than 5,000
Mm-hmm.
subscribers, and you were talking about Meest, how you get your, how you got your
Mm-hmm.
stuff over to Ukraine using Meest, and we commented that, oh yeah, we use Meest all the time from Calgary. It's a good, but then just watching how your communities have grown like crazy. There's something going on with Jonathan's YouTube channel that they're drip feeding him 100
I know.
subscribers every day.
I
There's
get like
something
half
very
a
suspicious.
subscriber a month.
No, there's
Yeah.
something suspicious going on there.
Oh, for
Nobody
sure.
gets 100 every day. That's just a little bit.
I
too-
get 100 every month. Yeah, I'm not well, like
It's-
not very much, but it's where it is.
But-
I
but you
speak to
guys
Benny
are-
about this guy. What is going on? But anyway,
But I'm so happy that you both have reached so many people, because your voices are true voices. They're going to get the right information from both of you. And like I said, sometimes it's very bad information, sometimes very sad news to hear, but you won't sugarcoat anything. And then if there's corruption, you'll expose it. You shy away from nothing. And that's exactly what we needed to hear, is just to go to places where we can trust people to give us the truth. I don't want to be like sugarcoat everything. I want to know what's really going on. I'm not there.
Exactly,
we,
man.
We speak to a handful of people that are over there. We can't make a but to have you guys every day,
Well,
we can rely on you guys. So
thank
That's
you.
very
And
kind. I bet-
I'm pretty sure. Sorry, Johnny, to step on you, but right here I have to do it. I'm pretty sure I can get an amen out of Johnny on this, and that is the truth will set you free, man.
I doubt it.
The truth will set you free, Johnny.
No
the truth
amen.
is definitely good. It's definitely good. It's
Okay, well,
definitely good.
we'll take that as an amen. All right, but here's the bottom line. The world needs the truth. They need to
Yeah.
know the
Absolutely.
energy infrastructure is critical right now. They don't need the glossed over story. Oh, our power supply is, a fortress. Russian missiles hit it and bounce off into the ocean. No, it's devastated and we need help. And that's how people rally. And we need to tell the truth about Vladimir Putin and about Donald Trump and about everything that's going on. And that's the way real solidarity comes. And this is why I appreciate so much today Zelensky, because Zelensky said, I'm waiting to hear what Trump's response will be to this strike, because it happened right on the heels of him saying not. And we've already got that response from Caroline Levitt. So it's...
There was something I wanted to say, just with reference to something Mark was saying a little bit earlier, which is that to do with the identity of Ukraine, and when it's the idea that he was amazed. Mark was saying that Ukrainians are amazed that people know about Ukraine, that people didn't know about Ukraine previously, but they do now. I wrote an article. Something like less than a month after the start of the war. It's when people were starting to put Ukrainian flags around the place, and you had the Eiffel Tower was lit up in the blue and yellow, and all this was going on. And I wrote an article that was very simple. It's just Putin tried to extinguish Ukraine, and he's done the exact opposite. He has thrust the Ukrainian
100%.
identity into the world in ways that could never have otherwise been achieved. Like, more people knew about Ukraine, more people knew the Ukrainian flag, just that simple fact, than at any time in the history of the world, right? And so, but now 4 years later, that's even more the case. Like, Ukraine is in the news all the time, not for good reasons, right? It's war and it's horrible, but he has failed at extinguishing Ukraine. And instead, he's kind of lit this furnace of moral indignation of people around the world who are thoroughly besotted with Ukraine, or at least empathetic of Ukrainians' plights, because this is a very clear moral evaluation that we make on a daily basis, that we are seeing this war, and it is the most black and white war that I can think of. There is no war that has this kind of clarity.
And he's also made our voices heard, finally, that we are not Russian. We're shouting it every day. We are not Russian. We don't want to be Russian. Don't think of us as brothers of Russian, that this is some kind of family squabble. We've always wanted to be our own people. We always have been our own people, and that's the way we always want to keep it. So he's actually given us a voice to, our voices are heard now, that the world can see how much we do not want to be Russian. That, we'll fight to the last person just to say we don't want to be a part of that. We want to be just Ukraine, and we don't want anybody else's land. We don't want to disrupt anybody else's culture. We want all of us to enjoy our differences, but we have to remain Ukrainian. If we get taken over by, if we lose that to, like, we just become like Belarus, and just our language will become gone, our way of life will be gone. We'll just be invisible. You know what I mean? Our whole culture is dead, and I really, really love our culture, and I really love that I married a Ukrainian girl who brings that. Like, our house has got like Vishwaman stuff all over the place, stuff my mom had, and then she puts out little pieces of Ukraine everywhere. And it's just a reminder. And then, you know, because I met her, she's brought out my Ukrainian more, because I always spoke Ukrainian when I was a child. But when you grow up, you leave home, you see other things, you're not around Ukrainians as much. So I kind of lost the language. But since she came into my life, my Ukrainian's gotten right back up to 100%. And so
You've just got to tell Elena, like, when it really matters, that she's beautiful, Mark. Remember that.
yes,
Remember,
yeah.
because before we were live, you got that
Yeah.
the wrong way around.
I don't know. Don't tell anybody. But I don't even know where that
I won't tell you what. You're not live in front of like 800 people. Don't worry about it.
That was crazy.
Hey, all right. So I can tell you this, just a little bit of news to insert here. The Russian delegation is landing right now in Abu Dhabi. So they're there.
Mhm.
And Podolyak, advisor to the office of president of, so Ukrainians are going, absolutely. And Russians are landing right now. I'm watching their plane land.
This is
And
awful.
Podolyak just stated, the negotiation, I'll translate the whole thing after we finish this live, but negotiations in Abu Dhabi, there may be some results that can come from it, but it will only happen if the United States takes the proper stance after the strikes last night and recognizes what Russia really is. So this is why Ukraine had to go to these negotiations, because it needs to be called out
Oh,
on the
yeah.
Americans.
That's quite
Ukrainians
clever
must
for
always-
Podolyak there.
Yeah,
That's clever.
it's just now. I'm going to translate it, once we're done.
You need to do that. You need to say, this is disgusting, and I expect now Trump and his team to recognize how disgusting this is. You need to prime Trump because you need to put him into a corner where he has to say it's disgusting. Otherwise, I don't know, but he has no shame. The problem is he has no shame and embarrassment. But it's quite a clever move from the Ukrainians.
Yeah,
I always get nervous when they're negotiating, because I know why the Ukrainians are doing it. I know he has to show that Ukraine is willing to negotiate. He has to, has to make himself available to it and remain positive. But I know, like most Ukrainians, these are going to go nowhere. I don't see them going anywhere. And the only thing is, like Greg said, as long as Putin is in power, he will continue to manipulate and control the narrative, and the states, and Trump lets him control the narrative, which is just
Well,
that's it. It's really frustrating.
It's if the same Ukrainian team goes, it'll be what, Umarov and Budanov.
I like Budanov, which is good.
Oh, are you
Budanov,
kidding? Are you kidding me?
yeah.
So we're okay. We're okay on that one. I promise you.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, look,
this is a good opportunity for Ukrainians to really assess where this American
Where they
mediator
stand.
team is. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we let's turn a negative into a positive here, guys.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm going to have to probably shoot at a fairly soon point, because my partner is pacing the kitchen.
Well,
can
that's
see
good.
there.
And Johnny, we've really covered the other things we wanted to.
Yeah, and we look, Greg. I'm going to be speaking to, just to let my audience know, or about your audience as well, and Mark and Olena. I'm going to be speaking to Marika Mikiashvili again, a Georgian that I've interviewed before. I'm going to be speaking to her on Friday, around, I think it is 1 o'clock UK time, somewhere around there. So if you guys want to get the latest on what's going on in Georgia, because that's kind of gone by the wayside a little bit, but it's really important.
Yeah.
So it fits into the whole kind of scheme of things. Then come and join us on Friday. There's almost too many, Greg, with you here in your burgeoning audience. There are too many super chats to go through, but I don't want to sort of rudely not thank.
No,
people.
and I've been trying to hit them, and I actually put a message into my chat. that I was really trying to focus on what Mark and Elena were saying, but there were so many chats and people making comments. We just want to say thank you, and gifted memberships. And guys, this is as good as it gets right here. You're hearing from the real Ukrainian stories, and JP and I can just tag along, but thank you. We do our best to keep it out every day.
Watching the comments go by, just thank you to your amazing, both of your teams are just amazing people. I'm like I said, we're just humbled by the love and support that you give Ukraine and these channels.
Foink, got it, buddy. Thank you. I see that.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh yeah, I always do. I have a little shop I go to.
Such a wonderful community. You guys have such a wonderful
Elena,
community.
I go to the little old shop downtown, right by the old building, and I go in there. I don't go to the other grocery store. Now they got a they had, I don't know if it's still there, but anyway, Aurora. But I always go into the little old shop and little old ladies there, and I'm getting things for them, that I think they need, and I just love doing it, and chocolates and whatever. It's awesome.
It means a lot, it means a lot to them. It's like little gifts from, they feel like we're there visiting almost with them, because you've seen her parents more than I've seen her parents, so I don't know, I'm hoping that we get to see them soon while they're still healthy. So, but we just don't know. But
Mr.
We
Red
don't want
Tyree.
you ever to take. I don't want you ever to risk. If it's not a safe place to go to, if next time you go, please don't go on our account. Just to stay safe.
I don't listen. Okay, so let's get this straight right now. I don't go on your account anymore. They're my friends now.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, let's make it very clear. The first few times we went on your account. When I went with JP, it was on your account, but now, no, they're my friends too. So, Linda S, shout out to the wonderful mods. Thank you for all your work, and that is true, guys. The mods working so hard, and friendly places to come together. And this is, last night was heavy. If you were on my live last night, that was heavy.
Yes,
but this has been refreshing. So.
And I just want to say, look, I know Mark from the Little Whiskey Shop is in the live chat, and a few others, no doubt, but I certainly do plan on going out to Ukraine again. I've got some particular things I can't miss back in the UK, but I was hoping maybe Easter time or something, but I'd love to, obviously, if we ever got down to Kherson way, it'd be absolutely fantastic to pop in again, but it's always difficult to plan these things, and Ukraine is quite a big country as well. So but I'd absolutely love to get some more.
It is. And as a retired cop, I see this war like a siege. Only negotiate for so long, then you have to act. Can't allow the offender time to plan or remove hostages. That's Russia's plan. Ukrainians deserve better. Listen, this lady right here, Linda S from Australia, is spot on. Huge supporter of Ukraine. Much love to her. And somebody, it just went through my chat, where, and I'm sure Johnny will get to in a second. Turkey handled it right. The first plane flew in, they blew it out of the sky, never had a problem since.
Yeah,
I mean that's it.
That's the way to
there aren't red lines, and they're full of hot air. The Russians really, like and it's not the Russians that have laid down. I always say this: it's not the Russians that laid down the red lines. We lay down the red lines ourselves.
Correct.
And they're imaginary and stuff. So.
And I have other good news. Other good news, guys. Belgorod was just in Russia was just de-energized, complete blackout.
Yeah, I've seen that as well.
So we'll take that.
That's where relatives live, right? Well, then funny about Belgorod, when the war started, Olena's mother would tell them, what's going on, and she wouldn't believe. Over there in Belgorod, she was saying, no, that's not happening. That's all made fake news or all that stuff. That's not. Why are you lying to me? She would say, well, there's nothing happening in Ukraine. This is all just and now they're getting a taste of what reality is.
We in the West have freedom, no concern for water, electricity, food, going to bed, wonder if we and our children will be alive tomorrow. It's a God-given right to live in peace without fear. Ukraine must have that God-given right.
Thank you, Linda.
100% agree, Linda. And I think we can even get an amen from Johnny on that God-given
No, you're
right.
still not.
I don't.
Well-
you just put me in a corner, right? And say, well, if you don't say something religious, then it means you're a complete bastard. And I'm like, come on, man.
I have the proof, guys. We're coming out of southern Ukraine. We turn left, and we're going to be heading to Bila Tserkva, and we're going to be heading up to Kyiv. And we were moving on out, getting into a little safer territory. And Johnny Pearce in the back going, "Oh, happy day," just singing. I said, "Come on, man, sing the gospel songs. I've got it.
Yeah,
I've got the
I don't
proof."
know.
That would be
never
a
put
fun car to be in, I think.
I never put two and two together and thought that was a religious song. I was just like, oh, it's a happy song. And then there I am as an atheist singing a bloody gospel song. But anyway,
And what's so funny, we were driving past this beautiful brown church. You remember, Johnny? This beautiful
Perfect
brown
timing.
church. We turned left, and he's going, "Oh, happy day." And I go, "Oh
He
my
was feeling
goodness."
something.
He was feeling it.
something.
I think
The spirit was moving, Johnny. The spirit was moving.
Was that after I'd had all those cognacs? That was, wasn't it? I definitely had a lot of cognacs. Yeah. That's what happened. Anyway, if you want to know, yeah. Anyway, I'll get back to you on that, Greg. Look, Mark, Olena, thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you so much.
For putting up with us, banging on
Thank you
and
for
interrupting you,
inviting
and,
us and we're and introducing us to the team. And I just want to say a shout out to everybody on both of your teams. Like when I'm on lives, I see people talking, and I wish I could communicate more with them, but I'm usually doing something else when I'm listening with you guys. But I just think your communities are just made up of really, really special people. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of them for being on your channel, supporting you both, because you both do amazing, amazing work. And we really, really appreciate it. That's why we wanted to be in the. Olena is like nervous like crazy. I can still feel her, but because out of respect for the two of you and your community, she wanted to say thank you to.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Budlaska.
Absolutely, and thank you. And I just this is not apropos to anything that you've just said, and thank you for the beautiful words, and thank you for paying some due respect to the long-suffering audience that certainly I have. I can't speak for Greg's, but thank you for that. Don't know where this comes from. Papa Dutch Jonathan, what I'm curious after is a Ukrainian porter. So he's talking about a dark beer here. When I was in Lviv, does a nice dark beer, sort of a brown beer, from one of their big breweries there. But they have some good varied beers in Ukraine. I would like to experience them at more in a more relaxed environment than maybe in one's own.
You know what's interesting about that? Papa Dutch is my buddy and great supporter, and I consider him a friend. But he asks you the beer questions.
Yeah.
He knows.
He knows. Don't ask me because I don't have any idea. I'm drinking water. So
Go to
the Brit.
Look, I don't know much about anything, right? Really, I may look like I do because I say a lot of words, but they're just generally there's a lot of nonsense that comes out. But we can talk beer. If you want me to talk beer, I can do that. And actually wine. I'm pretty good on wine as well. So I wine a lot, but also I like wine.
She likes wine.
So I've just heard that Lidl, which is a supermarket in the UK, like is a German supermarket, but it's one that kind of does sort of cheapest-ish food, or it's weird. It has cheap food because they don't have anyone working there. It's just like, hello, can I have a help here? No. Anyway, but they have quite good wine selection, and they previously had Ukrainian wine, and they've got it back again. So I'm going to Lidl tomorrow, and I'm going to take in some Ukrainian wine because, like, if I feel bad drinking because it's not good for you, especially when you got MS. It's not good for my MS, I'm sure, but in fact, I'm definitely sure because I'm bad enough walking as it is. Just a couple of glasses of wine and I'm crawling. But basically, if I'm drinking Ukrainian wine, I genuinely feel like I'm making the world a better place.
You absolutely are.
Like, surely. So at least that's my excuse, and no one's gonna.
You're
no
keeping
one's gonna
that
take
economy
that
going.
That's it. I am
that
single-handedly
means one more bullet for our guys.
Single-handedly supporting Ukraine. If it wasn't for me, the Ukrainian economy would be nowhere. It would be done for.
That's
Like,
what you tell your partner. Is it? I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this
sweetheart.
for Ukraine.
Sweetheart, but we have to get another bottle. I'm sorry, we do it. Think of those guys on the front. No, I don't want to belittle their experiences, but my goodness. Yeah, and actually, Mark at the little whiskey shop also sells Ukrainian wine and spirits and what. And
big shout out to Mark. I met him.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
bought a bunch off him, and although I haven't done for a few weeks, so I really need to do that because again, I'm doing it for Ukraine. That's what I'm
not
doing
for
it
you.
for
No, it's for
Ukraine. Slava Ukraini. That's
Thank
what I
you
for
say every
supporting.
time I have a glass.
Mark and Elena, you don't have to give your city, but what province do you guys live in?
We're in Alberta.
You're in Alberta. Okay.
Outside of Calgary.
Bro, the succession, Alberta. Oh, you're soon going to be the 51st state of America.
Trust me, that'll never happen. Like that's not going to happen. I think the last time they did a survey of actual people who were really serious about it was like 14% of the people, and then they're thinking even that might be a little. It's like the logistics to do such a thing would take what 20, 30 years to. It's just not gonna. I don't see it happening ever, unless Trump brings his army in here and starts bombing things. Then maybe but I don't know. I don't see it.
He might look at Putin and say, actually, he's got a point. That Putin, he's got a point. If he can do it to Ukraine, I can do it to Alberta. And then Olena would be like, seriously, I'm trying to escape. I'm like, I've come to Canada, so I don't have to put up with that. And now I've got
here we go again.
She'll be you guys will be moving back to the UK, and I'll be welcome, guys. And then the French will be knocking on our doors, and they'll be like, hey.
Yeah, I don't know if Greg knows that I was born in England. I was born in a town called Gloucester.
Oh, right, nice.
So
nice
I was there since I was 7, 8 years old, and before I moved to Canada. So I do have British ties with me, and I do have a.
You've got a tattoo. You've got a British Bulldog tattoo, I do believe.
Yeah, I've got a British flag on me, and the town of Gloucester is, the cathedral there and all that kind of painted on there. So, I've always been proud to be British. So I feel,
that's cool.
And I was there in 2013, looking over the town where I was born and everything, and getting reacquainted with my original country. And I do have a special place in my heart for England and Britain and everything that your country has done for Ukraine. It's just been, despite all these different political parties that are there, they all are united. Well, mostly.
Reform accepted.
Ukraine is they fully support Ukraine, whereas
it's not the same everywhere, is it?
Not the same everywhere. So we really appreciate everything that, and we know that things are going on behind the scenes too. That we don't hear about, that how they're helping. So England is just so proud.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, thank you for that sentiment.
Thank you, guys.
Look, Greg, we all say this, but we should do this more often. So how about we have another live in June?
No, it'll be before then.
I sure will. No, we would love
plenty
to do
to
this
talk
again,
about.
catch up with you guys, and just
thank you.
Just have a good chat. It's like having a chat with friends. That's how we feel about you both, because you're like family. You've been to our family, so you are family to us. So, and we just so appreciate everything you do every day.
That's reciprocated.
I feel so sorry for people that contact me and they're like, I listen to your voice, because I do like 5 videos a day or whatever. Like, and then people,
Johnny, you've done 5 before I get out of bed.
And then people are like, I listen to you more than my wife, and I'm like, that poor you, mate. Jeez. Or maybe I'm doing you a favor. Who knows?
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Mark, Olena, it's been a pleasure. Always is. Let's do this again, and I'll try and. Next time I'll get some Ukrainian wine and we'll make a proper.
Olena will slowly get more comfortable.
Oh yes. She did
Before
fantastic.
long, Olena's going to be hosting this. She's going to go, right, guys. Got some questions.
To get her off. Thank you, guys.
Awesome sauce.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks to the mods.
Thank you to the mods. Thank you to everybody. Yep. Be blessed, everybody. I will tell you this. Don't hit the button yet. I will tell you this. Drone launches from 4 directions about 15 minutes ago. So here we go again.
Heading into Ukraine or heading out?
Yes, heading in.
Yeah.
So you guys keep them in your mind and your hearts tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
Героям слава.
Разом до перемоги.
Так.
Так, правда сказав.
What all that?
Sorry, I flipped back into Russian, but I caught it. Так.
Так.
Так, будь ласка.
Naughty boy. Toodle pips, everyone. That's proper English.